sosiale medier I dag, går ofte kvalitetsinnhold ubemerket. På Den.Social blir brukere betalt for å skape, evaluere og sørge for kvalitetsinnhold. Innholdsskapere blir belønnet basert på engasjementet og rekkevidden innlegget eller kommentaren deres får. Evaluering av innhold blir belønnet basert på hastighet og presisjon I forhold til hva som kommer til å trende og gå viralt. Eiere av fellesskap blir belønnet basert på engasjementet I sitt fellesskap. På Den.Social blir kvalitetsinnhold belønnet.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the DENDAO meeting for December 8th, 2022. We do this on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time, following the weekly World Blockchain Roundtable discussion that we had earlier today. So today, we're going to just go through some updates, just kind of lay out where we are on a couple of things, and then hit some discussion points if we need to. Joe is with us on mobile, so he'll be able to chime in via voice, but you won't be able to see his beautiful beard today. All right, so we've got on the agenda, if you look over in the DENDAO layer, there's a link to join the call if you have something that you want to bring up. Otherwise, hello, Hyperion Frequency to you as well. I notice you have a reply in the post that we can go over once I go through the agenda here. So thank you for adding that. All right, we've got, let's see, updates. So the proposal phase for December's LCP is underway. We've got a really cool like upside down photo that one of our denizens won for this month. Who was it? That would have been, scroll down a little bit to the congratulations to, yes, let me pull off my awesome glasses so I can read it. Vidza84. Yes, so thank you for that. That was cool. We do like a little contest where people can submit a photo that's original, and it'll be featured in the LCP post. All right, where was I? So that proposal phase is open. That's for anybody who wants to get a free layer created, and there's enough community support for it, and it's not already proposed in the list of layer proposals over in the LCP section. There's a week window to do it, and that's open right now. We'll vote on those later this month. The next thing on the agenda, last note, all proposals are due by Monday, December 12th. So you've got the weekend to get your proposals in. So the next couple of points on the agenda are some of the things that we've been doing manually to see how our solution for mitigating some of the coordinated manipulation we've been seeing. We've had some initial good results with that. It's slow going for a couple of reasons, one of which is that each period for paying out on DEN is a full day, 24 hours. So whenever you have to wait like a bunch of days to see how, a bunch of periods to see how something really affects the system, it takes a while. So we've had some initial success. We're looking at automating that. And the next thing to hit that we haven't done yet is limiting evaluation to a piece of content. So the second item there is basically, we've talked about it before, but it's right now, if you, within one period, if you have several posts and several layers and you do fine in, let's say, 3 of them, but in a 4th one, you get heavily downvoted. The system as it is now does combine all of that energy into like a net energy gain or loss for the day. So there are situations where you can actually lose, not lose, but you can, your positive energy can be affected by unrelated negative energy, if that makes sense. So like if you posted something in the memes layer that was downvoted heavily because it wasn't a meme or it was inappropriate, whatever it was, and then you posted something in like the music layer and it's like amazing, well, you still might have your amazing results in the music layer diminished by your unamazing results in the memes layer. So that's a known thing that can happen sometimes, and there's a solution for it. It hasn't been implemented yet, but that's the next thing as that goes. And then before we roll into Hyperion Frequency's question, I was wondering, Joe, if you had anything you want to talk about specifically regarding what we're doing under the hood there. There was a DENDAO vote for us to go ahead and start doing some of this stuff manually to make sure it all works and stuff before automating it. And I know you had maybe a couple of questions about when the right time to automate that was.
Right.
Talk about any of that?
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can. Yeah, I can. You're a little bit robotic, but it works. We can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, that works. So, so it appears so far, I think, that the approach is working. And right now, the drawback and the inefficiency of the approach is that the selection is manual. So, do you think, before I continue, do you think it's okay to expose fully what we're doing and then how we want to try to automate it, or should we wait?
Let me think for just a second. Yeah, I think it's okay. The stuff we haven't figured out yet, like there's definitely imperfections still, right? Yeah. One of those imperfections is what we've already talked about, is the criteria for rolling off of the list, basically, where if your account gets caught up in some kind of thing, that's not like a permanent situation you're in. Right. The idea being to mitigate it in the short term, but then allow people to naturally the behavior to naturally evolve and not be stuck on some list because you did something stupid one time, that kind of thing, right?
Right.
And so that's one thing in the forefront of my mind that we haven't really like solidified yet. The things that we have done and figured out was like categorizing different types of behavior that we want to mitigate, right?
Right.
Puppet accounts, bots, bandwagoning, not the right term, more like coordinated manipulation, to either specifically harm a targeted denizen across all the layers, like if you're stalking them just to downvote them, that kind of thing, or the other way around, where you're manipulating up to where you have a coordinated, this is more of a bot and sock puppet sort of account thing, but situations where we've seen patterns of download everything from everybody except for this one or two accounts, right? So different things we've identified. So expand on that if you want. I think I personally think it's fine. Like it's not going to be a secret forever anyway. So it just has been in the near term since we like didn't want to lay it out. And like basically we wanted clean results, right? You can't say, hey, here's what we're going to be doing and looking for while there were known manipulators, listening to what we were saying. It's hard to like get clean results in that way. I'll shut up for a second though. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. And it's, I mean, I guess, the ideal is that you find an algorithm that will, even though it is exposed and transparent, will effectively achieve the results. But to find the algorithm, sometimes it's helpful either to go back to history on the blockchain and or, as in this case, live test it. So we kind of did both, but it's a somewhat coarse criteria right now because, like, as you said, it's manual. So it's not like we're running it prior to every mining operation every night. But the selection is based generally on identification of coordinated, Reddit would call it brigading activity, either in the positive or negative. It seems like mostly it's noticed in a negative direction, but it's probably occurring in the positive too. To identify those accounts that are effectively voting up or down against or for a certain account, on multiple pieces of content across multiple layers, identifying them, and then implementing or executing what we would call, without a better term, a shadow evaluation or shadowing of their evaluation. So effectively, those people can no longer evaluate. Now, the reason that we want to automate it, obviously, is so that we can make it more efficient. And part of that efficiency is pretty valuable in that, number one, it would shut off or it would turn on or off for every single mining period every day. So you might be involved in it one day, whether you were collectively caught up properly or not, then the next day you wouldn't be. But also potentially that it could be much more atomic. It could be focused only on the accounts that are receiving the brigading attacks. So essentially, our thought is that so we run this manually, very coarse. You know, it might have some false positives, it might have some false negatives, but it seems to have had a pretty direct effect on those issues.
It has.
And if we automate it, the point, and I think we will, of course, we'll send out a DAO vote on this, or at least on some discussion prior, but that we think that the identification of a party would be if you are involved in, and some of these things I think need a little bit more refinement, but if you're involved in a group, how we identify that has been hacking or promoting content from a specific user across multiple pieces of content, posts and or replies, and across multiple layers ideally, that you would be then selectively for that period, your votes wouldn't count. They would just be basically, that in the census measure.
Oh, I think you did actually drop off there towards the end there. So yeah, Joe's talking about automating what we've been doing. Two things I wanted to, until Joe comes back, I wanted to point out was that one of the things about automation is that it removes some of the subjectivity. I'll admit it's kind of awkward sometimes for me whenever we're looking at things that are happening. And then we're going into doing a human evaluation of what's going on. And we're like, all right, here's something that a human needs to evaluate to see like what's really going on. You do that in several situations, and then you look at the patterns that are common to all those situations. And then we can take those patterns and we can plug them into automation and say, here's what the pattern looks like whenever this happens, so that something automated and objective can make those decisions instead of a subjective person selecting accounts and saying, okay, you're on the list, that kind of thing, right? So that's one of the good reasons, the good things, behind automation. Fairness. Hyperion Frequency says, let's see. So this doesn't have to be permanent fix either. This could be something that is mostly used to protect new users. When our users scale up, we will have a better overall end of the sentence is what we'll have. Yeah, so scaling up definitely helps with having a larger base of evaluation so that it's less easy for someone to, for example, like come in and open 40 freaking accounts and then like use them to puppeteer what seems like a consensus on something, stuff like that is more difficult whenever we scale up. And then the other thing, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, what Joe was saying about like right now, obviously this isn't running every day with a reevaluation. That's where we want to get, is to where it is, whether it's 1 period or 3 or 7 periods that this sticks, that it would be like a limited period of time where ideally it could be every single period's a new period. It's a whole new world every single day, right?
If you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you now. You're back. Okay, good. No, you're good now, actually.
It's like say, I'm trying to remember. gosh, we do that for one other system. There's one other system where we find people, I guess, on the sock puppet accounts. We have one system that is literally reevaluated live every mining period. So if the selection criteria is met, that account is effectively reduced proportionally. It's an amazing system because it literally works, and yet if you don't do it the next day, it doesn't affect you. It's
that
really
specific
cool
system, I agree. That one, that one's great. It's also low hanging fruit, you know. And I'm kind of a fan of that in general, of like just making things more difficult. You know, like we're not going to make it impossible to come in and fuck around, but you can make it just not super simple, you know. So that helps a lot. It's amazing whenever you get rid of like the easiest low hanging fruit of stupidity, for lack of a better term. It's like a lot of the problem. Like that's a lot of it, you know. So that's what we've seen, and I'm glad that that's what we've seen, because I didn't think it was a huge problem. I did think that it was like narrow in scope, and that is sort of what we found. Anyway, yeah. So that's where we are. You there, Joe?
Yeah, I keep cutting out. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'll drop off, and
you're gonna have to just sit on top of your car.
Sorry, must be the buildings. I don't know.
It's all right. No, we can hear you still. It's just a little bit.
Either way, we think we're gonna try to get some something mapped out, and then we'll post it, and we'll discuss it, and then we'll prove it, and then we'll implement it. And there you go.
Yep. So yes, I don't think there's like a whole lot else to report on that.
Nope. That's
cool. All right, so I want to read what Hyperion Frequency said in the reply section. So each week, whenever we do these, when you see the DENDAO post go up, if there's something that's not in the agenda that you want us to discuss, you can hit the reply button and reply with it. Let's see. Question: in the future, will Den allow denizens to hold other utility tokens in their on-site wallets without the need to connect MetaMask? Say an optional feature were developed that layers could toggle on or off at their own discretion or governance in the future. Said feature has its own token being staked against matter or lore, as a loose example. So yes is the simple answer, but a little more to that. It's pretty straightforward for us to support other tokens right now, especially if they are an ERC20, 721, or 1155 token. We've done some of that already, where we're using like foreign tokens as a replacement governance token, right? Where, let's say, for example, you have an existing thing or community, and you want, and it's something like, what's an example? Like I remember like Badger DAO, for example, being like a year ago or something, being like a liquid governance token, where their ERC20 was also what they used for governance. So if something like that wanted to come into Den, yeah, it's pretty straightforward to start using that ERC20 instead of LOT to do governance in that one layer, right? To just isolate it to that one layer. So there's custom layer integrations, and it's manual right now. We had a conversation briefly, I don't know what show, or if it was DENDAO or what, with Greg from Rivet. It might have been last week, but he was asking about like, can you do this? Can you do that? And actually you can today do that. But it is a custom integration, meaning there's not a way to go in on the website at 2 a.m. when like no one's checking the support email and like click around and say, I want to do this. Let's open that. Here's like 1 Ether to fund the transaction, and then everything appears. So that automation isn't there, but there is the infrastructure to do that. Now, the second part of the question, doing it without MetaMask, is depending on what you want to do. Right now, MetaMask isn't technically required. It's just the only supported wallet where we know it works, right? Like we know for sure MetaMask works. I've personally used different wallets on Den and it's worked. I've used the wallet. Now this was a while ago and I haven't tested it recently, but I've used the integrated wallet in the Opera browser, which is a proprietary web browser that I love. They're very much on the bleeding edge of things where it's not going to work sometimes because it's like they do shit first, but it's also kind of wonky. But I love it for that. I imagine that if that works, you could probably use, I haven't tried it, but you could probably use Brave browser. Or if there is, like I said, custom integration with whatever project it is that wants to use that third-party token or that foreign token, then if there's some other scheme for, really it's an interchain question, I guess. Like, how are you making, right now we claim an address with MetaMask, right? So how are you like identifying, oh, this is this denizen's tokens versus this is the other denizen's tokens? Because Joe, and you can correct me if I'm missing something here, but basically we want to do it in a decentralized, non-custodial way, right? Is mostly what the issue is there.
Yeah, we can generally do anything, like say if you look at the sticky DAO, what they wanted, you know, it's very unique, and it was relatively easy to build in, because they were, you know, it's an Ethereum based NFT. So yeah, there are a lot more advanced things we can do. It just depends on what's needed or wanted.
Cool. So yeah, Hyperion frequency. Thanks for the question. I hope that answered it. Yeah, we can do it. If you're thinking of something in particular, you know, we can talk about it and see how that gets done. If it's a general question, then like, yeah, you can do it today, or you can do it tomorrow, whenever there's, you know, more automation. Some people prefer to wait until there's like an easy button where they don't have to interact with other humans, which I totally get. So that part's not here yet, but otherwise, yeah, it's you know, custom integration, private layers. And as a reminder, anybody can start any layer they want at any time. If it's a like a business layer or a private, not a private layer. I keep saying private. What do we call that? Just we used to call it B2B, business to business.
Yeah, we call it B2B. We probably need a better name for it, but yeah.
Yeah. But the other type of layer, there's not LCP. A paid layer. We just call it a paid layer, right? Because there's the free layer and the paid layer, LCP and B2B. So we could probably come up with some dragony name for it, though, if you wanted to have something on brand. Yeah.
Yeah. An RPG focused naming convention, right?
Yeah, make it fun. Yeah. Cool. So that could be our meeting today. We don't always have to go a full hour just because we have it allotted.
Yeah.
So unless anybody has anything to talk about further,
I should probably drop off so that I don't continue to frustrate the intertubes.
Well, don't ruin it now. If we're gonna round out with the 30-minute show, you can hang out for another 3 minutes, dude.
Yep, I can do that. I can definitely do that.
Cool. So reminders, on Den every week, we have multiple things going on that you can check out and participate in. Participate's usually the key word with Den. Since we're not a completely centralized solution to social media, we don't completely centralize all the things that have to get done around here. So the more people that are doing the things, the more better things will work, as a general statement, I guess. So some of those things include submitting questions to the next World Blockchain Roundtable, Super Happy Dragon Lucky, and Coffee with Den shows. I do mine, the coffee shows, on Wednesday morning. That's sort of a coffee meetup with your average Joes on Den to talk about. This week we got pretty. We don't usually go into politics and stuff on the coffee show. We usually save that for the opening segment of World Blockchain. But we did. We talked about Twitter files and stuff like that this week, which was interesting. I think it was a good conversation. Lisa Davis stopped by, and we talked about the Titanic and things like that. So that's an interesting show, just with friends to meet up every Wednesday. And I am going to thoroughly shill that, I guess, since it's my show. But we need World Blockchain Roundtable, Super Happy Dragon Lucky, and DENDAO questions too, which we've been pretty good at getting. So thanks for that. And those are all hosted in their respective layers. Super Happy is on Tuesday. Coffee's on Wednesday. World Blockchain's on Thursday. DENDAO's on Thursday. So that's where you can find all of those things. Any other reminders, Joe?
Nope. It's all good.
Cool. All right. Thanks. Thank you, Hyperion Frequency. Everybody have a good weekend. Let's see. I will be here next week, but maybe not the end of the month. We're coming up. Holidays and stuff is another reason. I was going to say, like, for a couple of reasons, that things have been a little bit slow rolling in, but one of them was the migration that we did that took a couple of months. One of them was just how long it takes to evaluate changes to see how it works. And then, of course, now we're at the end of the year, so people are taking, like me, I'm going to take off for like 2 weeks at the end of the year. So just a heads up on that. Otherwise, have a good weekend, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, all capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.